Long before our skies buzzed with signals and voices traveled invisibly across oceans, humanity had only the crude instruments of proximity. If you wanted to send a message, you had to write it, shout it, or trust a bird. For thousands of years, distance meant silence. The moment someone walked out of sight, they were gone, not just physically, but in every way that mattered. But then came the miracle that tore a hole in the silence of space: the radio. A machine that could whisper across mountains, scream across oceans, and speak through the very void of space itself. On July 20th, 1969, as Neil Armstrong prepared to make his historic step onto the lunar surface, his voice echoed across 250,000 miles and into the living rooms of Earth. "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." That voice, clear, calm, confident, rode on invisible waves that not even the vacuum of space could block. And it reached us because of the very invention whose origins are stitched together with genius, rivalry, obsession, and a touch of serendipity. But to get there, to that breathtaking moment on the moon, we have to go back to the very beginning. Back to a world without wires, a world where no one had yet imagined that a message could travel without a messenger. In the late 19th century, science was on fire. Electricity had just begun to electrify human imagination, and in this charged atmosphere, a new force had quietly entered the conversation: electromagnetic waves. Invisible, fast, and at the time utterly useless. That is, until a Bengali physicist in Dhaka named Jagadish Chandra Bose stepped into the arena. In the 1890s, while working as a professor, Bose began conducting pioneering experiments with radio waves. He was the first to use semiconductor junctions to detect radio signals, and he demonstrated wireless communication using microwaves, decades ahead of his time. But Bose, a man of science and philosophy, didn't patent his work. He believed knowledge belonged to humanity, and so his breakthroughs quietly seeped into the foundation others would build upon. One of those others was a determined Italian teenager named Guglielmo Marconi. Armed with ambition and a fascination for invisible energy, Marconi took the raw discoveries of people like Bose, Maxwell, and Hertz and set out to do what no one had yet done: send a message not just across a room, but across a continent. In 1895, on a foggy estate in Italy, Marconi succeeded in sending a wireless signal over a hill, a simple Morse code tap. It wasn't much, but it was everything. It was proof that communication no longer needed a wire. That distance no longer meant disconnection. From there, the race ignited. By 1901, Marconi had made history again, this time, transmitting the first wireless message across the Atlantic Ocean. As he stood on the wind-lashed coast of Newfoundland, headphones pressed to his ears, he caught the faint but unmistakable crackle of the Morse code letter S, 3 dots that forever changed human communication. But the story of radio wasn't just a tale of scientific triumph. It was about survival, war, and wonder. When the RMS Titanic struck an iceberg in 1912, it was Marconi's wireless telegraph that carried its desperate distress call: CQD, CQD, SOS, come at once, we have struck an iceberg. That message, transmitted by radio operator Jack Phillips, was picked up by nearby ships, and though the tragedy still claimed over 1,500 lives, hundreds were saved because a signal cut through the dark. It was only the beginning of radio's role as humanity's lifeline. During World War I and World War II, radio became a weapon and a shield. Pilots, flying alone in the freezing clouds, could report enemy positions or call for backup. Submarines lurking in hostile waters could receive mission-critical orders without surfacing. Messages once carried by pigeons and runners now travel at the speed of light. In the trenches and on battleships, soldiers huddled around radios for updates, news from the front lines, orders from commanders, and, sometimes, the rare voice of a loved one through shortwave broadcasts. Radios were no longer scientific marvels. They were the heartbeat of coordination, strategy, and hope. But it wasn't just the battlefield where radio transformed lives. Out on the unforgiving ocean, beyond the reach of lighthouses or cell towers, fishermen cast their nets in uncertainty. In countries like Bangladesh, the Philippines, Indonesia, and across coastal Africa, entire communities depended on small radios to receive cyclone warnings. A single broadcast could mean the difference between life and annihilation. Radio waves carried not just weather alerts, but hope, wrapped in urgency. In isolated mountain villages or sprawling deserts where electricity flickered and roads disappeared, radios connected people to the world. In Africa, battery-powered radios became essential in public health campaigns, spreading information about vaccinations, clean water, and disease prevention in the most remote areas. Even in the booming cities of the early 20th century, radio was a revolution. Before the age of television, there was the golden age of radio. Families gathered each evening around the glowing dials to hear Orson Welles narrate War of the Worlds, to laugh at variety shows, or to be serenaded by crooners who became household names. For the first time, entertainment and news weren't limited by print or geography. A farmer in Kansas and a banker in New York could listen to the same jazz song at the same time. It created a shared culture, a sense of unity in an increasingly fragmented world. Radio didn't just inform, it created identity. From underground resistance broadcasts during oppressive regimes, to rebel transmissions during revolutions, to the first pirate radio stations that challenged the airwaves with raw, unfiltered music, radio became a tool of rebellion and change. And even in space, radio remained our invisible tether. During NASA's Apollo missions, every word, every heartbeat between astronauts and mission control was carried on radio waves. When Apollo 13 suffered catastrophic failure, it was radio that carried those haunting words. "Houston, we've had a problem." It was the radio that kept hope alive during the long, terrifying minutes of silence. And it was radio that signaled their miraculous return to Earth. But perhaps the most astounding feat of all, radio didn't stop at the moon. In 1977, NASA launched the Voyager spacecraft, destined to travel beyond the known planets and into interstellar space. Voyager has journeyed billions of miles away, and yet, even today, it continues to send signals back to Earth. Those faint pulses of data, taking over 20 hours to reach us, are carried entirely by radio waves. Through this fragile thread of communication, we still speak to a machine that has left our solar system. On Mars, rovers like Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, and Perseverance have been directed, driven, and even repaired remotely using radio signals sent from mission control. Engineers on Earth, separated by millions of miles, send commands into the cosmos, and these robotic explorers respond. Every photo of Martian soil, every chemical scan, every drill into the red planet's crust, they all come to us on invisible waves, echoing through space. From Bengali physicists to Italian inventors, from battleships to moonwalks, from ocean storms to interstellar missions, radio has never stopped evolving. Today it powers our Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. It still guides planes across continents, helps rescuers find avalanche victims, and delivers your favorite podcast or emergency alert. But perhaps its greatest gift isn't technical at all. It's this. Radio erased the silence. It taught us that even when we are apart, even across mountains, oceans, and even galaxies, we can still hear each other, still feel close, still be connected. And it all began with a spark, a pulse of invisible energy, and the unshakable belief that voices could fly. Please subscribe to the Eureka Moments channel and share it with your friends if you liked the video.